Hi folks, I want to talk about functional refactor in React components, especially curing. So I have this Next.js application and it's an issue tracker. So you enter a title of an issue and then you enter a description, and the component I have in place is capable of figuring out, is this a new issue, then create a new issue. Is this an existing issue, then edit that existing issue. So you saw the test flow real quick. So we have some nice tests in place. So we're confident that things are working. And it starts with an API call, seeds some data in the database, goes to that particular issue, edits it. So this is the edit flow, has some values for edit, and then ensures that once it reloads the page, those values are showing up. And then at the end, it cleans it, right? So that part's simple, and we have a nice little test just to show you what everything's about. And the component is being used both for new issues and edit issues. It's called issue form. Particularly like it because it has this nice symphony of setting up the backend schema with Zod, with Prisma, and then also setting that with Zod, and then inferring certain types, the type of the issue from Zod, and then using Zod resolver from what do we call this React hook form, and then making sure that when we're submitting this issue in the form, the entire schema is type safe. So I think that's pretty cool. So you have your backend, you have your Zod schema types you infer from it, and you can't get it wrong in the form, right? So you have both backend and front end, and then type safety syncing up. We see this problem a lot, like the front end form isn't compliant with the back end schema, and then run into lots of problems. So this is the method that just results on it. Anyhow, so my issue here that the refactor I want to do is this issue form is taking an issue, and uh, after it takes an issue, there's this form data, and if there is an issue, we do a Axios call to edit that issue at API issues and issues ID. If there is no issue, then we do a Axios call to create that issue, and then we reroute them. And then that submit issue function is called like so over here. So you think, oh, maybe it's kind of confusing because it's taking a function that takes data and then does a try catch. The reason I don't like it is because we have this issue value over here, and inside the submit issue function, we are using that issue value. So the state is within the component, but the function is also using that state. I particularly don't like that because it makes it less predictable. Like, is that an issue? What got messed up? And trying to make this work, it was painful trying to figure out where is the issue, where is this 500 error coming from. So I like my functions pure, but it gets tricky, right? Like, where do I put my issue? So in this case, and in many React components, I see this, and in a lot of people, I see this doing this kind of, I won't call it a mistake, but it's not ideal, right? It's not actually a function. So let's try to do a refactor. Um, so we will need a function, and it's going to have to be the outer function, right? Like the submit issue is going to have to take this argument, and it has to return, like it has to take this issue argument, and it has to return another function. So it has to return this inner function. So I think what we can do here is, uh, so let's just take this issue argument, and the type of that is going to be either an issue, it might be undefined too, right? So this is good. My VS Code is interpreting the type there, but that that part of the function is all the way here. So it's a function taking another function, so it becomes a higher order function, right? And then this guy is going to need to take the issue. So let's see if that refactor works. Beautiful. So how is this working? So we are doing curing in here, right? The submit issue takes this issue as an argument and returns the inner function, which is what really matters. The inner function is the async function that is doing the API calls. It's taking the data and then it's doing the API call after that. And whenever we're using the submit issue function, right over here, it's invoked with the issue as its argument. So it's more clear what's going on, number one. Number two, my function submit issue does not depend on external state from the component. It is taking that value as an argument and then it's working with it. So this is concurring, and having a higher order function like this is more predictable, more testable. It doesn't depend on external state directly, and when things go wrong, it's a lot more obvious what's wrong. And the only reason I wanted to do this is because there was a lot of pain trying to figure out what was wrong with it. So since we're doing this querying, right, I think we can use Lambda to make it slightly different. So I installed just before this, I installed Lambda and types Lambda, so dependency and a their dependency for the types. So I think the same thing we can do like so. Just comment this out. I'm going to do the same thing pretty much, but the way it's going to be different is, so let's just want to cut this part out, and then we're going to need to import query from Lambda. And then query, yep, and it's going to take a function. So it's issue or undefined. And then, so you can have, when you're querying, you can have many arguments and then it's going to separate them nicely. That's what the library does. So the second argument is the issue, right? And then that, and then the query is wrapping the whole thing. And then, of course, this function is an async function. So there you go, some query. So if you compare it, right, it was taking one function and then returning another one. So query just makes it a single function. Um, close. There we go. Yeah. So query just makes that nice double function. And again, you're not depending on any external state like before. The argument, the function is taking its argument and working with it, and it's much clearer to read and test. Let's just run it again. Beautiful. So nothing has changed. Just as good. Um, I mean, I'll just leave this commented out here for people to see, and then perhaps I'll put even the first version as commented out, and then I'll explain whatever happened here in the PR. So you can take a look. It's a kind of a refactor I recommend to any React developer whenever they have some functions that rely on the external state of the component and a lot is going on. Makes it easier to read and test and all those good things. That's all. Later.